Welcome to Mission Majjhima. Ajahn.
Ajahn.
So tell us about Majjhima Nikaya 25, the Nivāpa Sutta, the bait.
In this sutta, the Buddha gives images of 4 different types of deer herds, which are similes for different ways that someone can be an ascetic, a samana, someone who's gone forth, a monastic, or someone who's really practicing the path deeply. So I've got names for these 4 groups. The first ones are the partakers, then you've got the forsakers, then you've got the debaters, and then you've got the escapers.
Nice.
Yeah. So the partakers are, in the deer version, these are the deer who, in this scenario, in all 4 scenarios, we've got these deer hunters, which is a simile for Māra, the personification of death, the personification of evil or temptation. This deer hunter lays out all these traps for the first deer herd, and the first deer herd partake of it. They go out and just take as much as they want. Here's all this, but then they get caught, and the deer herder comes and does whatever it wants to with it. Similarly, you've got samanas and brahmins, or practitioners, people who just go out and consume the 5 kama guna, or strains of sensuality. Sight, sound, smells, taste, touch, which are agreeable, likable, provocative of lust and sensuous. Then becoming intoxicated with these, then Māra can take one away and do with one as one likes. So we can go into more what that means. So that's the first group, the partakers. Then we got the forsakers on the level of the deer. The Māra and his retinue lay out all these traps, and the deer think, oh, we saw what happened to the first group. Let's just go back and not eat. We just won't eat, and then we'll be in the woods and Māra won't catch us. And on the level of, but for these deers, eventually, like all beings, they have to eat. So when all the food in the forest dries up, then they have to come in, and the Māra, catches them. The hunter catches the deer. Similarly, samanas think, oh, we saw what happened to the indulgent people, so we're just going to do this asceticism thing and just fast and just not relate to sensuality at all. And they go off to the forest. But eventually, you can't fast forever. And these samanas come back in and eventually just are heedless with regards to sensuality as well, even though they forsook it for a time. Then the level of debaters, it's not the best name for the deer group, but these deer group see what happened to the first and second herd, and then they decide, okay, let's go live near the hunters, but we'll be heedful. But they do that, and the hunters don't see them initially, but then the hunters get smarter, and they lay out all these fences or brambles, which then allow the hunters to know where they are. And Māra, the hunter, gets them on the level of samanas or brahmanas, these practitioners. These samanas go off and they see what happened to the first and second group, that sensual indulgence doesn't work, asceticism doesn't work. But then this group, these debaters, just get too involved with views and 10 speculative views, which we might go into. But they get caught as well. They get caught in their attachment to views. And the fourth group is the escapers. These are the deer who, quote, go somewhere where the deer hunter can't follow. And the deer hunter doesn't. And similarly, on the level of religious practitioners, spiritual practitioners, these people go somewhere where Māra can't follow, and that's the 8 meditative attainments, the 4 jhanas, form jhanas and formless jhanas. And that's the sutta. And that fourth group does escape from Māra's grasp.
Way to go, escapers.
Agree. Ajahn, what did you find interesting about this sutta?
Well, I love your names for the different types of deer. That's perfect. And I think maybe one thing really worth drawing out here is the character of Māra. He's a character we will encounter throughout the canon. And someone once commented to me that you have 2 main characters in the suttas. It's the Buddha, and second is Māra. And honestly, I think it might be one of Māra's greatest tricks that we talk about him so little. He somehow flies right under the radar, even though he's everywhere in the suttas. And Māra he appears many different ways in the canon. In some places, he's referred to as the 6 sense bases, as the 5 aggregates of clinging. The commentaries make a distinction of 4 different kinds of Māra. So you have Kilesa Māra, which is Māra as the defilements, greed, hatred, and delusion. You have Māra, which is Māra as death. You have Māra, which is Māra as the 5 aggregates of identity, of clinging. And then you have Māra, who's kind of quite fascinating. He's actually a Deva. Supposedly, he resides in the apex of the sensual heavens, a realm called the Parinimita Vasavati Deva realm, the realm of the Devas who delight in the creations of others, and he's a rebel prince in one corner of it. But what this indicates, I think, is that he exercises control over all sensuality. Everyone, all beings that are kind of entwined and entangled with, as you put it, the 5 kamaguna, or the Nivāpa, the bait, are all under his control. And only by accessing that pleasure apart from the kamaguna, apart from sensuality, namely the jhanas, and more refined attainments, does one escape his grasp. And this is why the 4th herd of deer is safe, is because they've found a place Māra cannot go. And the Buddha really foregrounding, these are not incidental attainments. Jhana is the safe place for Māra. So I find that very interesting. I think that it's worth noting in Sutta Nipata 3.2, Māra's armies, which are his helpers, the seed sowers' helpers in this case, are sensual pleasure, discontent, hunger and thirst, craving, sloth and torpor, fear, doubt, hypocrisy and obstinacy, reputation and gains, and self-exaltation. So I love that list of kind of Māra's helpers or armies. And I just think it's interesting, like Māra, how he talks about the 4th herd of deer, let's keep an eye on them. And you hear that a lot in, Buddhist circles. Is like when you begin doing something good and meaningful in line with Dhamma, either sometimes an internal part of ourselves kind of fights back. We don't like change. Or perhaps something more external does. But to know that as you begin to practice, really guarding our virtue and not opening an opportunity, an occasion, an okasa for Māra, becomes a very kind of important thing to keep in mind. Ajahn, what else did you find interesting in this sutta?
Well, I appreciated your elaboration of the different types of Māra. There's one more which is talked about in certain commentaries, is the Abhisankara Māra. Mm-hmm. That's the Māra of thought. The Māra of thought, or of just fabrication. One thing I'd like to highlight is that 3rd group of deer and the 3rd group of samanas, the debaters. What they do specifically is they talk about 10 different speculations. So specifically, you see this again and again. It's a pericope, this pattern you see again and again. They kind of debate, is the world finite or infinite? Is the world eternal or is it not eternal? Is the body and the soul, are they one thing or are they something else? Does the Tathagata, i.e. the Buddha, he does exist or he doesn't exist after death? Or he both exists and he doesn't exist after death? Or he neither exists nor doesn't exist after death? And these are just the hot, topics of the day. And yeah, you see a lot of debate in those similar veins today. Is the soul, what is the soul? Is it one? Is it many? There's a sutta where the Buddha says that lay people, just normal people, fight. When they fight about sensuality, trying to get, pleasant things in the world. Whereas when renunciants or spiritual people fight, they fight about views. And I find that to be very much the case. We don't have that much to fight about other than what we think about the world.
I think the noting the views is exactly where to zoom in there for many of us, and these nets that catch us, the tangle of views, a thicket of views. And yeah, that really it is where a lot of us get kind of just tangled up and caught, even though we think we've managed to avoid the bait. And that view on the Tathagata existing, not existing, etc., it's kind of meaningful to notice that a stream enterer never asks that in all the suttas. Because it sounds like a very esoteric question, but really it's asking like, what's left? What is the enlightened mind free of a body? Like what is, maybe an equivalent might be like, what is God or something? What is Nibbana? And a stream enterer has touched that deathless reality and doesn't ask that question. So it sounds like a very strange and kind of esoteric question, but it's you're right, it was the hot topic of the day and still is. So, Ajahn, what is the word of the week?
The word of the week is Māra. So Māra is, as we said, personification of death. We got the 5 types of Māra that Ajahn Nisaba pointed to. And feel free to experiment with these different meanings of Māra as death, Māra as unhelpful, unwholesome thoughts, Māra as just the aspect of the world which is constantly changing, and maybe Māra as some kind of influence that we can't see. And feel free to relate to that as you will.
Thank you, Ajahn.